Greetings, everyone. This is Rock Roll Spot Convention from Weekly Comic Roundup, and we'll get started on this week with the new X-Men books. Starting off with Fallen Angels #1, part of the Dawn of X initiative. So, obviously, Fallen Angels focuses on Cable, X-23, and Quenon. So we begin with an explanation of where Quenon's name originates. Quenon was the goddess of mercy, and often in Japan, you can find a statue of her holding a child. The one we think of as Quenon is her name is Mercy. With the narration, we see a young child walk onto a train and plug in and attach it with the tattoo of a butterfly on the back of her neck. Attach a small tech implant to the side of her head, which leads to the child then slaughtering her way through a subway train and leading to its crashing. On Krakoa, we see Quenon meditating when she suddenly gets a vision. The vision telling her that her enemy is named Apoth. So she goes to Magneto, who says, "Hey, yeah, the islands, ever since Xavier died, Xavier was assassinated at the end of X-Force #1, island's on lockdown, no one comes, no one goes." He then tells her that he then suggests that Quenon go east to find Sinister and tell him of her visions. When she calls him on this contradiction, he simply explains that she has no idea what she's talking about. In her grief, in his grief over Charles' death, Magneto has a tendency to forget conversations. Officially. And so, Quenon goes to bar Sinister and tells Sinister what's up. Initially boring him, but he does manage to get her to. She does manage to keep his interest by, answering the questions he asks. And he helps grant her. He helps her to leave the island. But he also suggests that she not do it alone. She explains that no one here trusts her. But Sinister says, "Sure, there's someone else here that needs to destroy something." And so she ends up recruiting Cable and X-23, who, during a big celebration where everyone appears to be dancing, briefly fight. Psylocke explains what's going on, why she picked the two of them. X-23 is all in, but she feels that Cable deserves paradise. Quenon then asks what Laura thinks she deserves, and she simply says, "Oh, a life without Logan's shadow." So they head to Tokyo. It turns out that the implant the young girl attached to her head is a digital narcotic known as overclock. It also turns out that the girl from the beginning is Quinon's daughter. So they get the information. There's actually a write-up about overclock, explaining what it does and the effects it's had on the rest of the world. X-23 and Psylocke track overclock to a rundown ramshackle farm outside of Tokyo, where inside the barn they find 5 children, all seemingly bleeding from their eyes, much like Quinon's daughter was in the moment before she died. 4 of them promptly die, but one, turns out, is being used as a speaker for Apoth. Apoth tells Quinon and X-20 and Laura to go back to their exile, and without them, the world will finally evolve before letting the 5th child die. So, Quinon returns to Sinister bringing both X-23 and Cable with her. And arranging a deal with Sinister. She needs a team. She'll recruit them. However, Sinister will keep their existence from the Council. And then Quinon will bring Apoth back to Sinister. Basically allowing Sinister to dissect him. And then Quinon will kill him. Apoth, that is. As the issue ends, Quinon asks that X-23 and Cable find others they can trust. There have also been flashbacks to Quinon's personal training, which included metaphors of metamorphosis from butterfly to, or from caterpillar to butterfly. And she explains that Cable and X-23 are caterpillars, but she can make them butterflies. And that is where the issue ends. Moving on to X-Men number 2. So where we left off, Orcus was recovering from the assault by the X-Men during House of X. The X-Men were beginning to become accustomed to their new lives. So we begin in the summer house. Cyclops asks Prestige and Cable if they'd like to help him beat up some monsters. Turns out another island has popped up near Krakoa, and Krakoa is making a beeline for it. So they want to figure out what's going on. So exploring, they have 5 hours before the two islands meet, and in that time, 3 hours in, they're having trouble making it through the they're having trouble making it through the jungle. So Cyclops just says to hell with it and uses his optic blast to shoot them a path. A couple native animals pop up, one eating the other. We get a brief interlude inside what's known as the Arak Mall. The Arak Mall. The summoner talking to his mother about what he must do. It's also a rhyme about what the summoner is. The summoner then appears to Scott, Rachel, and Nathan, but speaking in a language they can't understand. Initially, Cable offers a gift, his last thermite grenade, or his last thermal grenade, which the summoner activates. Summoner then summons forth three demons: Urogloth, the great beast of the outer realm; Hugodir, the vanquished god; and Dur, the undying. And so, Cyclops, Phoenix, or Cyclops, Prestige, and Cable fight the three summoned creatures, and then Prestige has an idea. Upload Krakoan into the summoner's mind telepathically, which she does, and so now they can communicate. And Cable admits, okay, it was probably a mistake to have given the summoner his last thermal grenade as a gift. It's a bad decision on his part. As they talk, Krakoa nears the other island, and the two combine. They are now one island. Later on, the summoner is walking through the jungles of Krakoa when he comes upon Apocalypse. The two speak, and it turns out that the summoner is, well, first off, the war that Apocalypse fought earlier was mentioned during Powers of 10, or Hawks and Pox, is still going on, and the horsemen he sent to fight that war are still waging it. And the summoner is in fact the son of war. And the summoner is there to recruit Apocalypse to his cause, to help fight the war. And that's where the issue ends. Interesting to see that we have such quick continuity between books. Xavier was killed just last week, and already the new titles are dealing with it. Of course, that generally means that this was all discussed right off the bat. So it is still a nice thing to see such prompt and quick continuity right off the bat. Moving on to The Batman's Grave, #2. Where we left off in Batman's Grave, Batman was investigating what appeared to be a murder, or what appeared to be a suicide, but it turns out it was actually a murder. And so the killer, now revealed, attacks Batman two duke it out in the apartment of the victim. Till finally, Batman manages to take him down. Then drops him off at GCPD headquarters. Where two officers nearly draw their service weapons on him, and Batman simply says that he's had a bad morning, and that if they're going to make a move, just go ahead and make it. Otherwise, make sure that the killer reaches Commissioner. The killer, now currently handcuffed, reaches Commissioner Gordon. When he returns to the manor, well, turns out Alfred is hungover. They actually have a very amusing exchange. Alfred asking Bruce if he wants coffee, and then saying, this could be a moment his head hurts. Well, Bruce explains his head hurts too. And then Alfred chimes in, the rest of my body isn't doing much better. And Bruce adds, yeah, same. With Alfred finally saying the last word of mine's worse. So Bruce ends up getting him coffee, and then Alfred says that he has the most splendid idea. Tonight, Bruce stays at home and drinks an entire bottle of 70% proof whiskey, and he'll put on the suit and slap around some underprivileged burglars. And he mentions that the two officers nearly drove down on him, and he's hoping for a calmer night. So he arrives that night. He's called by bat signal and arrives. Also, very cool looking bat jet designed by Brian Hitch. You can kind of see it on the cover there, the underside of it. But here is a look at the yeah. It's a neat jet. I'm all for it. And so they talk, and it turns out that the killer was delivered by Batman to the GCPD that morning is a man named Eduardo Flamingo, a mob hitter out of San Diego. The only name that stuck to him was Eater of Faces. Apparently he fell foul of an employer, got lobotomized with a chisel, and left on the street. Eventually drifted to Gotham. So that any half-bright lawyer can get him into Arkham, but San Diego, Los Angeles, and Sacramento all want him too. Turns out, however, that's not the only reason Gordon is called Batman. A man named Bobby Turton, a corrupt assistant DA, blackmailed his way out of charges, went into private practice, became a defender, and got rather rich, has been murdered. And CSU is backed up, but there's some weirdness about the homicide, so Gordon wants Batman to look into it, get them a head start. Also, Gordon thanks Batman for saving Officer Wen the previous night. And Batman kind of says, hey, there were tattoos on the necks of the guys who went after Wen and his husband. It's not ink I've seen. Ask Wen about it, and Batman asks Gordon asks Gwen about it and to let him know what he finds out. Back at the cave, Batman starts looking into the Turton homicide. And Alfred opines that Turton being dirty, it's easy to imagine a situation where Batman brought Turton to justice, thereby enabling him to be killed in prison by, as Albert puts it, some lizard with a sharpened toothbrush. So, however, Bruce thinks that that would never mean that he deserved to be murdered. That's where the issue ends. Okay, getting an interesting setup. It's Warren Ellis. It looks like Warren Ellis has decided he wants to have some fun with this one. After all, it's 12 issues, so. Moving on to Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night. So far, we've seen how the death and rebirth of Superman, as well as Nightfall, happened, at least on different Earths within the Dark Multiverse. Now we see Blackest Night. So we begin with Tempest Huguenot patrolling the Dark Multiverse. We get a recap of Blackest Night. The Death God Necron unleashed the power of the Black Lantern and ushered in the creation of the Black Lantern Corps. The Black Lantern attacked other Lantern bearers and spread death across the galaxy until they were met by a united force of Lanterns, the Color Corps, led by Hal Jordan. In fact, Sinestro, Jordan's most bitter enemy, battled side by side with Jordan. And as the battle raged on, Sinestro called upon the power of life itself and became the first White Lantern possessor of godlike power. And then Sinestro shared the power of life, making a core of White Lanterns, which defeated the Black Lanterns. However, in the Dark Multiverse, Sinestro did not share the power. And the Color Corps failed to stop Necron. And, in fact, added the members of the Color Corps to the Black Lantern Corps. "19 days later, got Lobo fighting the Black Lantern Teen Titans in San Francisco, while trying to take Dove of Hawk and Dove, who is immune to the Black Lanterns. Turns out his Arnie physiology makes him immune to being turned as a member of the as a member of the Black Lantern Corps. Sinestro shows up. Turns out he's half and half. However, his White Lantern manages to keep the Black at bay. He's also able to use his White Lantern his White Ring to make everyone realize what they've done briefly before the Black Lantern takes control of them once again. And so, Lobo, Sinestro, and Dove head off to the prison planet Tachyon Galactos, as that's what Lobo's been hired to do. We also get what's happened over the span of the last 19 days. And then, turns out 6 days have gone by. Upon arriving on Tachyon Galactos, turns out that the draw of death is extraordinarily strong there, and it's making it very hard for Sinestro to maintain balance between life and death. As it turns out, the new gods of Apocalypse have been turned into Black Lanterns, and they are present on Tacron Galtos. But it turns out that Scott Free, the stepson of Darkseid, the son of High Father New Genesis, and greatest escape artist in the galaxy, is the one who hired Lobo. Turns out he's got a plan. Unleash the basically break a hole in the source wall and use the power, the cosmic energy of creation, to undo the death that has been brought about by Necron and his lanterns, making Dove a receptacle for the power. So there it is. They make it to the source wall. But the remnants of the Color Corps have followed. And so Sinestro tries to stop them. Also following them is, of course, Black Lantern Darkseid, the avatar of Necron, who's now the avatar of Necron, and the Black Lantern Female Furies. Darkseid uses his Omega beams to destroy Lobo, who does what Lobo does and makes every droplet of blood makes a fully formed clone of himself. Sinestro is able to sever the connection to the Black Rings for both Hal Jordan and Saronic Natsu briefly, but they end up changing back, and then Lobo kills them, and, well, once everything's almost ready to go. However, Darkseid explains that while technically speaking, yes, what Scott is doing will work, and will eradicate the Black Lantern the energy of the Black Lanterns, it will not bring everyone back. It will simply just destroy the Black Lanterns, including his wife. And so Mr. Miracle snaps Dove's neck, and then Lobo kills Mr. Miracle. But Sinestro has an epiphany. Dove was not the only source of life energy, of life source left. Lobo, whose cells regenerated as whim, creates life from blood. He will direct the source energy. And so he does. The Black Lanterns are destroyed, reduced to ash, and all over the galaxy, new life springs. Creation wave accelerated evolution on every world in its path for select single-cell organisms, raising them out of the primordial ooze, filling their veins with blood. Within months, sentient beings stood up on two legs, formed tribes, created languages, and looked to the stars. In each of them, the image of a singular progenitor was locked in their genetic memories. A new god, Lobo. The source energy, taking on the form of a container, put a little bit of Lobo into all of creation. Every new species born replaced those lost in Necron, took on the distinct aspects of the last Zarnian. The first impulses were to destroy and exploit the last of the old civilizations. Hate and violent tendencies as much as a part of them as DNA. The months they had taken to the stars, urged on by their instincts to eliminate all competition or take revenge for the smallest perceived slight. And watching it all from afar was the architect of this new universe. Sinestro, the Limbo Lantern. Now Sinestro pursues any means of escaping his mistake, seeking tears in the fabric of space-time so that he might burn his way into a new reality. And so Tempest Huguenot keeps him imprisoned in his reality. And knows that in the dark multiverse, Blackest night is the one where broken worlds go, tumbling into the darkness, where no bright lanterns shall ever shine. And that is the end of the issue. There are, in fact, 2 more Tales from the Dark Multiverse to go. One for Infinite Crisis, and another one for the Judas Contract. Alright, next up, and last comic for this video, the Dollhouse Family #1. The second entry in the Hill House Comics imprint. So, we get some narration. This comes first. Not in terms of time so much. Time becomes tangled here, malleable. But in terms of causes, effects, we fall. We land. In fire and reeling thunder. In pain. But my work is still unfinished. The beast lives. What must I do now? What can I do? I know this plane. I've seen others like it. There's space here, and time. Something to work with if I can remember how. I do my best, and after 1,000,000 years, or 2, or many, the world heals over us. Then a little later, this happens. 1979, England. A young girl has been bequeathed a rather spectacular dollhouse by her great aunt Margaret. Her father wants to look into maybe selling it. Money's a bit tight after all. But it is... But young girl's mother explained, no, it was bequeathed to her. If she wants to keep it, that's that. And so... So the young girl played with her new dolls. But, well, turns out her parents are having some issues, and one constant issue is a stray cat that they seem to have taken on. We flash back to 1826, when an ancestor of the young girl, Joseph Kent, was, it turns out, part of a survey team in Ireland. On his way back, he and his associate, William, come upon a cave. Fast forward to 1981. And the young girl, Alice, is still playing with her dollhouse, and one of the dolls tells her magic words she can say to actually come and to shrink down and enter the dollhouse. So she says them and does so. Meets everyone and gets to know them. And see her play. We see her hanging out with all of them while her mother deals with the abuse that she takes from Alice's father. Back in 1826, Joseph's exploration of the cave, yeah, something's gone wrong. He meant to go a mere 100 paces. Well, he seems to have lost his way. Eventually, finds something. The creature that fell at the beginning of the issue. There, there's a brief flashback to 1982 where Alice's father is convinced that Alice doesn't care for him. He's right. She at least doesn't hate. She hates it when her father hits her mother. And so, one of the dolls makes mention of the black room. There's no room in the dollhouse. And as Alice asks about it, Bess, the doll, explains that, I really shouldn't have said anything. You're far too young for the role. I had to take care of something in the kitchen. Back in 1826, Joseph, having discovered a creature and about to wake it, comes upon a woman. And the woman has her way with him. Then in 1983, Alice learns about the black room from some of the kids in the dollhouse, and she enters it. And the room tells Alice that if her father isn't stopped, he will kill Alice's mother. And then asks, should I stop him? And all she has to do is agree to stay in the dollhouse forever. She has time to think about it, so she goes downstairs to her father working on a shelf, and he asks her to hand her a screwdriver, and then she picks up a hammer, and seemingly bashes him about the head. That's where the issue ends. Now, for the next portion of Sea Dogs, the HMS Havoc's plan is further laid out. They mean to go take the Havoc south. The British mean to take the Havoc south of the Sugar Islands. And no doubt, with the plan of dismaying the French the French and Spanish allies of the colonies. Well, they need to get. So one of the werewolves mentions that he hopes there's a plan to sneak them on board the Havoc, and the intelligence operative says to him, "Sneak you aboard, Havoc herself will welcome you." In St. Lucia, orders to board the Havoc have been taken and will be sailing out with the evening's tide. And that is where the issue ends. That's also where this video ends. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the switch box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.